We have a special presentation regarding a proclamation that I'll read, and I ask a member of the Belmar Women's Club to come and say a few words about it as well. But the proclamation is how the month of April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas we all have a responsibility as individuals, neighbors, community members, and citizens of the Borough of Belmar to help create healthy, nurturing, and safe experiences. And whereas healthy and safe childhoods help produce confident and successful adults, and whereas child abuse and neglect often occur when people find themselves in stressful situations without community resources and don't know how to cope, and whereas incidences of child abuse and neglect can be reduced by making sure all families have the support they need and deserve to raise their children in a healthy environment, and whereas it is recognized that no person can do everything, but everyone can do something, and together we can create change for the better. And whereas effective prevention programs succeed because of partnerships among nonprofit organizations, government agencies, volunteer organizations, schools, service clubs, houses of worship, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas displaying a pinwheel or planting a pinwheel garden in the month of April will serve as a positive reminder that all children deserve great childhoods, happy, healthy, and safe. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Matthew Doherty, do hereby proclaim April 2017 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the Borough of Belmar, and I urge all citizens to engage in activities that strengthen families and communities, can provide the optimal environment for children to learn, grow, and thrive, so that all children have the benefit of happy, healthy, and safe childhood. Former Councilwoman, thank you. Would you say a few words at the microphone on behalf of the Belmar Women's Club?
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. I just wanted to say that the Belmar Women's Club owns a state project every other year. This 2-year span, it is Prevent Child Abuse New Jersey. And I presented the proclamation to the council, and I'm very, very pleased that you read it. We all want the best for our children. They're the future of our town, the future of our state, and of our country. But in a loving way, this agency supports teenage parents, parents who are on drugs, children who have been abused in one way or another. So we're very, very proud. Ann Collins also is here from the Belmar Women's Club. So we're here together to thank you implicitly for reading the proclamation, to make everyone aware of how precious our children are in every way. They need to be protected so they can grow and flourish and become wonderful adults. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Collins, for being here as well. Next is our workshop. We have artificial turf, but I think we've sort of beaten this horse a few different times. It's on for first reading introduction tonight. No public comment. That'll be on second reading. Does anyone have any comments on artificial turf at workshop?
The only comment that I have is that if we're going to ban it, we're going to ban it on everything. I don't see the purpose of banning it just in the front yard, only for the fact that all the people that have put it in, they keep their places pristine. They want it to look good, and they're working and paying the money to beautify the town. So I can't see the issue with it being in the front yard. I mean, everything else in the ordinance is fine as far as color and style, but I mean, if somebody really wanted to put it in the front yard, whether it's in their backyard, side yard, or the front yard, I don't see the difference. But I mean, people will spend a lot of money to make the properties look really good. So I think that the front yard should be included in it.
We don't think the front yard should be included in the ordinance.
Right, yeah, but they have the right to put it in the front yard.
Well, the ordinance, okay.
Right, yeah.
So the ordinance allows you to put it in the backyard.
Backyard, side yard.
Backyard, side yard, right. And I thought one of the arguments that someone made that was pretty compelling was, there are folks who use it around the pool, and when people come in and out of the house, that instead of going over, whether rocks or dirt or concrete or grass, that they go over it. So the functionality of it, particularly the pool in the backyard, seems to make sense. As far as functionality in the front yard, no one made a case for functionality, but that's why I thought in the backyard, it seemed to make sense. But I understand your your opinion that it should be permitted in the front yard as
Well,
well?
I had, as long as we're actually discussing, one of the things that was brought to my attention, you know, my thing has been, as long as it was permeable and that appearance guidelines, I don't see the problem. But one other thing that was pointed out to me, because part of the discussion was, you know, the supply of oxygen that's generated by the plants. It was pointed out to me that the majority of the oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere actually comes from the ocean, from the photoplankton in the ocean. And one of the things that destroys photoplankton is algae blooms, and algae blooms are caused by fertilizer runoff. So if you're trying to grow grass in your front yard, you know, you're not necessarily adding to the oxygen depending on how you do it. That's just one more thing. I'm with Councilman Walsper. If it meets appearance guidelines, I just don't see the point of telling people they can't put it in their front yards. We let people put stones in their front yards, and that's not adding any oxygen either. So, okay.
Anything else for a workshop? We didn't have anything else on.
I know I just got today was the two resolutions for the building heights in the Seaport Village redevelopment area, and also property should be designated as an area in need of redevelopment. Just got that today.
Yeah.
And I haven't read through it well enough yet, and I haven't got over there to look at it. I think we need to discuss it before I feel comfortable enough voting on it for a resolution. I know I have a note here that Greg was trying to explain this to us. That will be great. I just know, being on the planning board, the way it kind of works is that when we pass a resolution here, and the attorney for the planning board says, the mayor and council has passed a resolution, and they want you to give your opinion. The planning board it's almost implied that the mayor and council wants this, and they've reviewed it, they've discussed it, and it's something that, you know, is good for the town. And then when they vote on it, when it comes back to us, we look at it and say, oh, but the planning board voted yes on this. And it's really like, I think we need to discuss it here, so that we can, at the planning board, tell them exactly how the mayor and council looks at this, so that they can make a more informed decision at the planning board, so when it comes back to us, it's been reviewed well enough that I would feel comfortable voting for it. Right now, I just got it today, and if we could, I'm sure it's good. I'm sure I'll probably agree with it. I'll probably have some questions about it, but if we could table this into another meeting so I could discuss
Well,
it.
why don't we just, I'll recuse myself on this topic, but Greg, do you know enough about this to explain it?
I can explain what the genesis system are, yes, I certainly.
All right.
Okay.
And I'll come back, but again, this is gonna be out for public session anyway, so we really shouldn't discuss it. You wanna wait till public session discussion as opposed to the workshop?
Yeah, whatever your pleasure is.
The only reason is the workshop, we don't have public comment.
Okay, let's do it on workshop so that when people come up to the public
Yeah, they
session.
know what the
But
next.
don't do it on workshop, do it in the meeting. You can always take it out. I'm saying if we discuss it now during workshop, there's no public comment. But if you wait until the resolution calendar before you vote on it, Greg can explain it to you, and then you can have public comment as well.
Can we still have public comment when it comes up later on?
Yeah, unless you pull it off.
So what I'm saying is, I'd like to discuss it now, hear what Greg has to say, then during the public session resolution, if people have questions, I'll have a better way of
Yeah.
answering
Easier to
that.
answer people's questions. Thank you.
Greg?
Okay, Greg, on here, we have two resolutions coming up concerning the Seaport Village redevelopment and the height of buildings in their redevelopment zone. So can you kind of, as I said, I just got it today.
No problem at all. So, as you know, I'm not your redevelopment attorney, so in terms of what the specific details of building heights, sizes, setbacks, things like that in the redevelopment zone, I'm not familiar with that, but I can tell you the general procedural history of these two resolutions. So, The first one, that's amending the building heights in the Seaport Village redevelopment area. So as I understand it, you've already designated the Seaport Village area as an area in need of redevelopment. That was previously referred to the planning board, came back to council, and you guys went through all the requirements of the redevelopment law and the municipal land use law. What you're referring to is the referral to the planning board, which is required by the state statutes. So, notwithstanding that there's sometimes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because different people know what's going on, there's overlap between the land use board and the council, class 1 and class 3 members, that's required by the statute, so that's why that happens. And the planning board can make its recommendations one way or another, and the municipal land use law, the council can take them or not. But it's a process by which, these are major changes. So more people have input, it's a check and balance kind of system, that sort of thing. So with respect to the particular one, the first one, the Seaport Village, you have the redevelopment area, and it allows 3.5-story tall buildings. And as I understand it, you've gone out to negotiate redevelopers agreements with individuals or companies that may come in and build that, and that has turned out to not be, what people are telling you is that it's not economically feasible, that they want to go up to at least 4 stories. And you would be referring this to the planning board to investigate and make recommendations on the building heights in the redevelopment area. So they would come back and say, we don't think anything above 4 stories is good, we think 3.5 is okay, try to work with it, go back to the drawing board. So they're going to make their, study it with the planner and their professionals and recommend to you. As I understand, the genesis of this is that, the redevelopment area is not getting much traction because 3.5 stories isn't enough for developers to make profit, which is why they're here in the redevelopment areas, or in any town for that matter. So as I understand it, the resolution is to investigate amending the building heights in that area, and the planning board would go through it and see what else is customary in the area.
Do we know what height some of the developers are interested in?
I don't know that. I mean, that's a question for your redevelopment council. I don't know what the specific conversations were. The planning board isn't going to look to tailor it, they're not allowed to look to tailor it to what someone told you might be a good thing or a bad thing for them. They're going to look at it in terms of whether it complies with the master plan, whether it comports with the neighborhood characteristics, whether there's something that's changed in the neighborhood since the last master plan was done, to see if it fits with maybe potentially new characteristics of the town in light of other developments or rebuilding since Hurricane Sandy. I mean, everything in the town has gotten higher since Sandy. So they'll look at those sorts of things, what's changed since the last time. And the planning board and the land use boards are guided by the master plan. So whatever recommendations they have, ultimately statute requires them to tell you whether they comply with what the master plan of the town is. So in terms of doing specifics in that nature, tailoring it to a certain, proposal, that's not what the planning board would be doing.
The planning board would not be deciding that.
No. They would be looking at it in terms of whether amending the building heights to go higher in this area is, of course, in the master plan, and would accomplish the objectives of the redevelopment plan. Clearly, if you were, the higher you go, the more people are interested in your project. I mean, that's just a basic economic principle. You give me 1 acre of land and I can build 10 stories on it, I can make a lot more money than I can build 2 stories. So it's, and also an elastic endeavor as well, because the higher you go, the more it costs you. So from the developer's perspective, what they'd be looking at is does raising the requirements and essentially lowering the bar for entry into the redevelopment zone comport with what the rest of the town looks like. For example, planning board, I would highly doubt would come back and say, we think 10 stories would be okay in this area. I don't think that's going to, well, perhaps it will, I don't know how to speak for the planning board. It would seem that they would look at it to see if going a little higher or moderately higher would make it more of a lower the barrier for entry and attract developers, while at the same time keeping within the characteristics of the surrounding neighborhoods, and most importantly, a master plan.
So would they come back and with just a general, I think some of the properties can go higher, but they wouldn't be telling us to what limit? That would be in the master plan that was passed last year?
No, I mean, they could recommend, so the redevelopment area should be good. Master plan has the zoning map for the town, so there's all zones, all of the town, residential, commercial, forgive me, I'm not incredibly familiar with your zoning ordinance. I'm sure Mr. Kennedy could probably speak to that better, planning board attorney. But a redevelopment zone is an overlay zone, so it basically takes that zoning and it nullifies it in a certain area, defined by block and lot or parcel. So, because that's a drastic change, and it's going, not in compliance with the zoning ordinance, the redevelopment law requires that the planning board be involved, and that there will be multiple checks and balances to ensure that those changes are what's good for the borough, and in compliance with what the master plan is. And I keep saying master plan, but the master plan is essentially what your professionals, the planning board, and you have all agreed the town should look like, with public input and multiple public hearings. So that's the guiding document by which these sorts of things are evaluated. You don't have theoretically, you could have a redevelopment zone and allow someone to build a 10-story building on Route 71. Clearly, that's not the intention of what the redevelopment law is supposed to be, and I don't think that would comport with the character of the community. That's what this check and balance is designed to get to basically swing the pendulum back to the middle in something that works economically, but also works with the character of your town.
Okay, and the second resolution?
The second resolution, as I understand, is essentially.
Before you get to that, can I just ask you a question? Because now I'm a little bit confused, because I know, if you're non-conforming and you're going to the planning board for relief, I mean, the planning board already could give you a couple more stories to make the developers, workable to what they need to make a profit. So I'm just, now that I'm a little bit more confused as to what is the difference of this resolution? I mean, if you're gonna go say, okay, 4 stories is the limit, that's what's gonna be in the redevelopment area? I mean, still the developers can come in and say, hey, we need relief, we need another story to make this whole thing go. And the planning board would look at the whole project to say, okay, we're gonna give you the relief you need to put another story on. So I'm just confused of.
That would be the case. I mean, so number one, the redevelopment law, 2013, also provides, as we discussed, I think, last time, I believe the public had questions, provides other incentives or market-based.
I mean, it gives guidelines to the planning board of saying, okay, we're gonna allow 4 stories now. But say somebody comes in and in the area that they wanna build, 10 stories might work, so they're coming to the planning board anyway to get non-conforming.
In this case, they're not. And so there's.
In other words, once we vote on this resolution, if it's 4 stories in the redevelopment area, it's gonna be 4 stories, that's it. They wouldn't be able to ask for relief for anything else.
Right now, it's 3.5 stories.
Right, well, say they make the change to 4.
But you would have to make the change.
Well, I mean, say the planning board comes back to the mayor and council and says, okay, we're gonna allow 4 for developers.
Right.
Now, the developer comes in, he wants 6. Wouldn't they go to the planning board just to get that relief for that variance that they, or some kind of relief? They couldn't do it
They
anymore.
would have to enter into a redevelopment. So the steps are, so what you're describing is the ordinary zoning process.
Right.
So if you have a house that, let's say.
But I'm trying to determine what's the difference between this resolution and something that we're trying to do, because even if the planning board comes back and says 4 stories, they still have an avenue to say 6, 7, or 8 stories. And it's up to the planning board to say, yeah, we agree with that, or we don't agree with it.
No, you're correct, except it's up to you.
It would be up to
So if
the council, or?
the ultimate discretion lies with the council. So you described the ordinary variance process through the ordinary land use, municipal land use law. That's one set of parameters, and you typically go there for one property, or say my house, I wanted to put, I had to raise my house because of flooding, and I wanted to put a window speed bar or some sort of design element that's still in character with the neighborhood, but maybe it goes a few feet over what the zoning ordinance allows.
Right.
You can go there for your property, and you can get that variance. This redevelopment plan eliminates that process. That's what the first process we're talking about is municipal land use law. We're talking about the redevelopment law, which is a separate law that modifies the procedures in the municipal land use law. So essentially what it does is, that variance procedure that you discussed is taken care of at the council level through a redevelopment ordinance that designates, and you typically, in rare circumstances, you do it for, or rarer circumstances, you do it for one property, but this would be a public area, do it for multiple properties. So the difference being the town council, in situations where the economic conditions are not allowing someone to assemble a plot of properties, go get variances, either for cost of entry, and clearly according to the planning board's expensive endeavor to cobble together all these properties, things like that. Two, the redevelopment law also provides other tools that the council can use to encourage that development, like the pilot agreements we discussed last time, negotiation over off-track and on-track improvements. So for example, in the variance instance that you talked about with the housing or just the ordinary property, the ordinary process, you know, they have to construct everything that's on their property. They have to construct the lines and what have you. In a redevelopment zone, you can negotiate with the developer. So for example, if you're building a large building that needs sprinklers and the water line in the street 2 blocks away is off track as opposed to on track on the property that they own is required, but for their development, then you can negotiate with them to pay for that. So it provides various other levers that you can use that aren't available under the ordinary municipal land use law. And those parameters, of course, pilots, you know, givebacks for infrastructure, I shouldn't call them givebacks, negotiations over contributions to the infrastructure, and things like that are the other tools that are in the redevelopment law. So it goes beyond just whether you can build this high or this low or what it should be. It goes also to give the governing body multiple tools that takes it out of that process that hasn't worked to develop that property back to a beneficial economic use to make that happen. So this is one element of it, playing with the height restriction, but there's obviously multiple elements, density, units, which is all, as I understand it, we worked out the redevelopment plan for that. None of that stuff is changing from all the stuff that was passed last time. As I understand, this will strictly be studying of the building heights.
Can I just want to add something that might help too. The Central Business District 1 zoning allowed 4 stories. So when those properties in that zone were moved into the redevelopment zone, it knocked them down to 3.5 stories. So the one that we approved last month, 707 10th Avenue, was a 4-story because they based it off the old commercial zoning, and you guys approved the redevelopment agreement for it to be 4 instead of 3.5.
Yeah, well, that's the property I was talking about. So, I mean, in this case scenario, basically what we're, this resolution is asking the planning board to take a look at it and see what would be conforming or what would be there.
So I wasn't aware of that. That's, forgive me, I only studied this redevelopment, didn't talk to them. Thank you, Madam Clerk, I appreciate it.
You're doing good, Greg.
And these have nothing to do with the height restriction, we're just asking on their recommendations.
After tonight, correct, nothing will change, everything is the same as it's written. This simply asks them to say, is it a good idea for us to change
Which
it?
they were able to do in the past anyway.
Which they've already done in the past.
And then even if we say it's 4 stories, they can still go to the Board of Adjustment and apply for a variance to go
No.
5 to 6, but then it'll come back to us.
No, so the variance, take the variance process out of your mind.
Okay.
The variance process is all worked out in 2 regards. Number one, the redevelopment plan, which sets the zoning for that area. So it's no central district, business district zoning, that's all gone. This is an overlay zone where the parameters of the zoning district are set by a redevelopment plan that is adopted by you guys as an ordinance. You've already done that.
So if it is 4 and they want to go for 6, what's the process? Go run
Same
the
thing we're
class.
doing right now, so we go from 3.5 to 4. Got to go to the planning board for discussion and hearing public comment and their recommendation, then back to here, to twice, once for introduction and once for public hearing to amend the redevelopment plan, because the redevelopment plan is adopted by the ordinance. And at the second reading, let's assume for a moment that the planning board agrees to go from 3.5 to 4, which it seems like in the central business district is the standard. Then it would come back here, be introduced, and then as further council meeting would be put on for public hearing, for public comment again, and then voted on again.
I'm just wondering why the central business district is along Main Street. So why was it ever changed? That's the first thing.
Well, the Central Business District still exists, it's just that some of the properties
Are in the
are now in the
Seaport, right.
redevelopment zone.
Right, and when we did that whole plan for the Seaport Development Plan, why did it change? I mean, there must have been a reason. Not that I'm privy to, but there must have been a reason that they changed it from 4 to 3.5.
Well, the
Okay.
rest of the redevelopment plan is all 3.5.
Yeah, right.
Just
Okay.
carried, it was just carried over.
I'd be careful on the bus list, because the next one I have a better
Oops.
explanation.
Oops.
No, I just, no, not
Careful,
careful.
you gotta be
You're
careful
doing
what
it,
you're
you're
assuming, right?
You say must have as though there was some,
When-
some rationale or what have you.
Right.
The second resolution on here is simply that the original redevelopment plan forgot to include a block and lot. That was always intended and is part of the redevelopers agreement.
Is that what this is?
There's a missing lot from the redevelopment plan that doesn't conform with the redevelopers agreement. So they have to be matched up, and because there's all these checks and balances, you have to go back through the process of resolution of planning board, one hearing, two hearings to make sure that everything is okay. So that, I can tell you, certainly wasn't any rationale for excluding it, it was just missed on the list of block and lots in the redevelopment plan. So, that second one, directs the planning board to investigate whether that property should be designated as an area of redevelopment, because when it was referred the last time, it wasn't part of the list. So, however, the map that was drawn and the redevelopment agreement that was drawn up both contemplated. So I'm not, maybe it just went by accident from 4 to 3.5 on the first one. I can't speak to that.
Okay.
Ask someone else.
Add to that too.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
That's actually the east side of Main Street.
Yeah, no.
So it came up at the planning board hearing the last time we amended the redevelopment plan. Several of the planning board members asked, how come we didn't include the east side of Main Street?
Everyone was like, oops.
So now we're gonna see if they want to include it.
Okay.
Is that just the one property, is that the bank property?
That's the whole plot.
They're adding?
I can tell you one sec. I believe it's the bank all the way down.
All the way down, so I've read the resolution, it's all the way down.
In what direction? East, you mean, all the way down?
Yeah, from 9th down to 10th.
Yeah, I can tell you one sec. I'm gonna pull up the block and lot.
Block 95.
And that's for the planning board to vote on, correct? And for study, and then send their recommendation back to us.
Yes. And then you will have the opportunity
To
to
say yes or no.
twice.
So yeah, that's 900 Main Street, which would be all the way down to,
See how the road works?
yes.
No, those were not included the first time around.
Thank you for the explanation. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Next are petitions. Any petitions for the council? See any? Approval of the minutes.
You want me to do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I move that the minutes of the regular meeting held on March 21st, 2017 be approved as recorded and that a copy thereof be posted on the borough's website.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Next are reports of the council. Council President McGovern.
Okay, I'd just like to mention that next Tuesday, it's April 11th at 7 p.m., the Belmar Historical Society, I have a couple flyers up here on the table, this pink paper. They have brought in an author, Joseph Bilby. He will be their speaker, and he wrote a book on World War I, New Jersey in the Great War. We do, Belmar, have our own World War I monument. It was the first monument over here, Doughboy Park. It's all dedicated to the soldiers that fought in World War I from Belmar. You might find it very, very interesting to come to this Historical Society meeting. It'll be in the community room, 7 p.m., a week from tonight. Mark it down in your refrigerator, save the date, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And they work hard, and they're looking forward to probably getting a nice crowd in there, which would be 20, 25 people. So if you know anybody that's a history buff, is into World War I, World War II, any of the wars, have them come out next Tuesday. Also, the Shade Tree Commission, we had a meeting last week, and we had a couple of our members went up and down Main Street where new trees have been recently planted for the streetscape. And probably since they were planted, the weight of the trees, they've sunk down in the ground. They are too low. They are not gonna grow well, they're not gonna do well, those new trees that were planted. Brought to the attention of the Belmar engineer, they need to be lifted. And put in about 4 inches of stone, some other cloth in there to back down there to prevent them from sinking. And this all has to be done before these trees leaf out, and it's happening pretty soon. So, so Shade Tree Commission, we do go around, we do look at the trees. There's an awful lot of trees that need work, but the trees that were just recently planted, there are about 25 of them, about 12 of them have sunk, they're a little bit too deep. Also, the Shade Tree Commission are going to be offering our annual Arbor Day program to the Belmar Elementary 4th grade class and to the St. Rose Grammar School 4th grade class. Belmar, we're going to do it on Wednesday, April 26th at 9:30. In the front of the school, we're going to plant a dogwood tree. Actually, what happens is we dig the hole and we put the tree in, and all the kids from the 4th grade come with a shovel of dirt, fill it in, and then we give them all a seedling, a 1-year-old seedling. Hopefully they'll go home and they'll plant it in their backyard. Hopefully they don't run over it with their lawnmower by their dad or anything like that. It just encourages the kids to get environmentally in tune with how much trees help the environment. And then a week later, on Wednesday, May 3rd, we're going to take the 4th grade class from St. Rose, and we're going to plant a pin oak tree at the Belmar Library. And same situation, we're going to put the tree in the hole. It's going to be about a 10-foot tree, about 2.5, 3 inches in diameter. Have the kids throw shovels of dirt into it, plant it, and then we're also going to give all the students in St. Rose a seedling, ask them to take it home, plant it in their yard, neighbor's yard, and hopefully get them interested in the value of trees in the environment. We've been doing this for about the last 9 or 10 years. I don't know how many of those seedlings are still growing, but hopefully some of the kids are still active in the value of live trees, hedges, bushes, shrubs in the environment. That's my report.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Walsford.
I have nothing to report since the last meetings, good progress.
Beautiful. Councilman Nudi. Councilman Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things. We have our list of salt-resistant plants that was recommended to us by Jay Kelly from the DEP. 13 species of plants, and right now we're working at locating growers that will have them. A couple of them are a little hard to spot. Steve Wolfer, the chair of the Environmental Commission, went down to a presentation down in Point Pleasant a couple of weeks ago. Their Environmental Commission presented a presentation about native plants, not just at the beach, but throughout in your garden or in your yard, wherever. We got some contact information there. We're working with those people to see if we can line up some growers so we can go out, put together some specs and go out and get some bids for these plants. I was a little concerned about the fact that it's getting into the spring already, but several of these plants you don't actually plant until late summer. So we're actually in pretty good shape as we're moving right along. As soon as we can find somebody who can give us, and we might end up having to buy them from a couple of different places because it doesn't look like one person has all these. But it's a lovely list. It's several different kinds of plants, flowery perennials, ground covers, deciduous ground covers, evergreen shrubs, so there's color all year round. Several that bear fruit. Beach plum is one of them. The beach pea is another. A lot of them have different flowers. It's really nice assortment. Once we get them in, what we're looking to do is do a pilot planting in one location. We'd like to go around the playground area that's by the 12th Street gate on the beach. Belmar's the first town to try to do this. For those of you who don't know, one of the things we're trying to do is to get dunes to grow naturally. I mean, plenty of towns take stuff Christmas trees, as a nearby municipality does, put them on the beach, push sand up on top, and lo and behold, you got a dune. That's not really the best and most effective way to do it. The most effective way is to have vegetation grow at ground level. The vegetation itself grows with the dune. The fact that the plant is, and it's happening now along the boardwalk where the weeds are growing. You can see the sand will pile up against the plant. As the sand piles up, the plant grows higher, creates a deeper root system, so the dunes are actually much more solid and much better at staying in place in the case of storms. I mean, there were dunes with plantings along the boardwalk before Sandy, and you could tell the day after the storm, I remember very vividly walking down and realizing certain places that had vegetation, that had dunes in those locations, the boardwalk was not pushed over across the street the way it was in other places that didn't have those dunes. So what we'd like to do is see if we can get this pilot working, you know, with a specific set of salt-resistant, beach-native, New Jersey beach-native plants that if it works, and it really shouldn't, there's no reason it shouldn't work, have that work so that not only can we move forward with doing it up all up and down on the boardwalk and around in other areas of our beach, but it can be an example for other beach towns to follow. You know, we had plantings there before that weren't necessarily beach natives. They were pretty, but they required a lot of maintenance, they required a lot of water. These plants don't need that. Basically, you put them in and they should thrive on their own because it's the correct environment for them. So we're moving right along with them. As soon as we get to the point where we know where we're gonna get them, we're gonna put in, we'll let you know. Second thing, for me, I'm still involved in discussions with businesses in town, talking about the possibility of taking actions to restrict the use of plastic bags. I've had, all my discussions have been very positive, to be honest with you. No one has said if you ban a plastic bag, it's going to put me out of business. They've had questions. One of the most reasonable ones, I think, is, well, so if we ban bags in Belmar, what about all the bags that come in from other stores that are outside of town? And it's a fair question. One, we would have to address by giving people opportunities for recycling bags, which there are definitely ways to do that. Last Thursday in the Asbury Park Press, there was an article about a talk given by a man named Gary Sondemeyer, who is an executive of Bayshore Recycling. He had been on the board of the DEP, and now he's in private business. And it was mostly about how recycling is mandatory and the ways we can improve our environment. But what really caught my eye was the very last paragraph. This is something I really didn't know. He says, in the last New Jersey legislative session, there were no less than 5 bills proposed that would ban the use of plastic bags. So it's already being discussed at the state level. And he says that, you know, a change, if you want to reduce your flow of trash and recyclables. He basically says that one of the best first steps anybody could take is to ban the use of plastic bags. So I was very encouraged by that. So I'll let you know, I have a couple more businesses I definitely want to speak to, and then hopefully with some more feedback from the business community, we can move ahead. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman Nichols.
Yes, I'm going to start off with this Saturday, April the 8th, there will be our Easter egg hunt up at the boardwalk from 2nd Avenue to 4th Avenue. Starts at 11 a.m. and it ends at 11:01. Please get there early, it's very quick, these children run and go crazy, and they hide thousands of eggs, right?
I think we're up to 4,000.
They hide 4,000 eggs.
Tell them who puts the eggs together.
April and Ray, Claudia put the eggs together? Just the two of you?
Actually, he did them all on his own this year.
So they started back in November. So that is this Saturday, again at 11 o'clock. Please be there, it's a lot of fun. Another thing coming up is our art walk. That's April the 29th, Saturday. That's from noon to 4 p.m. And it's up and down Main Street. It's a great event. So Saturday, April 29th. We have just worked with the town, the BBP, the Belmar Business Partnership worked with the town, and they will be having cruise nights this summer in July and August, which I don't know if anybody's attended, but it's a great event where they've got the classic cars up and down Main Street. So that will be 2 times during the summer, July and August. Dates to be announced. Near and dear to my very, very near and dear to my heart. Both past council president Claire Dyke and myself are members of Belmar Cares. We're both breast cancer survivors, and we are doing an event called In the Pink. That will be May the 3rd, Wednesday, from 6 to 8:30 p.m. And it is from 7 to 8:30 is a discussion with Dr. Denise Johnson Miller. She's the head breast surgeon over at Jersey Shore University Medical Center. And she comes and speaks about the latest and greatest technology and things that are happening with breast cancer and breast cancer awareness. This is our 3rd year? 3rd year?
It's our 3rd year.
It's extremely informative. If you know anybody that might have an interest in it, again, it's May 3rd and it's called In the Pink. Before the talk starts at 7 p.m. from 6 to 7 o'clock, we have manicurists and hairstylists coming in to give free pink manicures and pink hair extensions. So it's a really nice way to pamper our guests, and there will be literature that's handed out. We'll be having pink cupcakes that will be given out, so it's a wonderful night.
Thank you very much for saying that.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
And then on April 28th, the Belmar Elementary School will be working with Belmar Cares. All of the children in the school, 545 of them, will be writing their names on pink ribbons and tying the ribbons along the fence at Memorial Field on 12th Avenue, which is always very, very nice, and they'll show their support of breast cancer awareness as well. 2 quick things. Summer Camp 2017 is sold out. It was a very, very hot ticket, and I don't know the exact number of children. Was it 100 or 125? I'm not sure. So very, very excited about that. It is the greatest deal in town. It's basically $600 for 8 weeks, so the children are looking forward to that. And last but not least, the Belmar Arts Council has their annual juried art show. Tremendous artwork that's hanging over at the Art Center up until May the 5th. So we've got a lot of fun things happening in town, and I hope that you can get to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I do want to say that Ray Claudio does an outstanding job stuffing all the eggs with good candies. There was a recreation director one time who stuffed them with horrible, terrible candy. The poor children, they cried on the beachfront when they opened up and they had like hard candy. I know. I'm not kidding, like, you know, like a little.
Now you know it's a big person.
I do want to compliment Councilman Tom Brennan. I will say that through these discussions about plastic bags, I have found myself using less plastic bags, whether it's Rite Aid or I was at Dick's Sporting Good and I had to buy a couple things and I told them, don't need a bag. They only had 9 heads, but I'm like, I'm doing it for Tom Brennan. So they said, oh, okay, then that's fine. So I do want to say that even if we don't necessarily pass an ordinance and compel people, just the discussing the topic does have a positive impact on people using less bags. So thank you, Councilman. Last thing I want to mention before I bring up a guest for tonight is, our Belmar First Aid does an outstanding job. And they sent out requests for contributions. And I know Bruce Plattner's here. He's one of the members of our First Aid. When you get one of these requests, please give them something. I'm not going to tell you what dollar amount to give them. I'm not asking you to break the bank, but give them something. They are really remarkable, and I'll tell you, not only do they save us as a municipal governing body your tax dollars, But I can tell you, you'd much rather be transported to the hospital by Belmar First Aid than Monarch. Belmar First Aid comes with guys like Bruce and George and Louie, and a really remarkable group. Monarch comes with a ginormous bill at the end of the day. So again, if you have it in the mail, give them some money, and it goes a long way for our little community. So we do have a guest from New Jersey, or Jersey Central Power and Light, Kieran Tinton. I'd like to bring him up and say a few words. Tracy Panel is one of our best utilities by far, so thank you, and I appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Kieran Tintle. I'm with Jersey Central Power and Light. I'm your area manager. Just want to stop by tonight and check in with you, see if there's anything you or your constituents needed, and make myself available at the meeting.
Aside from lower electric bills, anything else?
Karen, we do have a house on 11th Avenue, 317, that has a branch that's right on the electric lines. We want to get pruned because the woman who lives there, she's like in her 90s and she's afraid it's going to come down during a storm. So when I talk to you next week, do you do slight prunings? Because we can't send our DPW guys anywhere near a
I believe Colleen and I actually discussed that last week. It looks like I went and saw it myself just the other day. It's over a service wire.
Right.
When we meet next Wednesday, if that would be all right with you, I did just speak with Ray moments ago. Ray would like to go take a look at that. We can see what we can do to help you out.
For you guys, piece of cake.
Yeah,
For us,
from looking at it, I think we would take issue with it too. It's hanging over our wires also.
yeah.
And one other location, it is behind Santander Bank,
Okay.
behind 10th in the Belmar Plaza, like directly behind the bank. There's a pole with a bunch of lines and a crazy craggly bush all the way up, tons of,
I'll take a look on my way to dinner tonight.
it's crazy, so that's a one to definitely put on that list.
Sure.
Councilman Bryan, any requests while he's here?
You got him
No
now.
plastic bags.
There's plastic bags
I'm not
collected.
using it.
I also want to let everyone know, recently, Kieran has gotten engaged. So ladies, it's off the market. Sorry, Jennifer. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Nothing like embarrassing your guests at the microphone. That's all for me. Next is public session on the resolution calendar. This is just resolutions. Any comments, questions on the resolution calendar, please raise your hand, come up to the front, and we can call it. Yes?
All of the resolutions, right? Not just the first two?
Yes, resolution calendar.
I see you have specifications and everything for
Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Joan Corral, Bay Street, Belmar. The Taylor Pavilion, what is the occupancy? You have resolutions up there with, you know.
It depends. I mean, if you do seated tables, it's different versus just people standing in there. I mean, it could be pretty darn large. It's a big building.
Larger than what it was?
Larger than what,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
the
capacity-wise.
occupancy is gonna be larger than what it was. Yeah, it's configured a lot differently. And then also the way it's configured, with the windows on the east side, those are accordion windows that open all the way up, to basically the whole wall open. So if you include the deck on the outside, that's even more people. So, you know, I don't know what the fire marshal's put on it, and eventually he'll tag it with a number. We don't have that yet, but several hundred, yeah.
And when you do have large events, there will be some type of policing or somebody
In the
checking
rules
it
and
out?
regulations, it depends on the event. So if someone's gonna have a wedding with 200 people and alcohol, then yeah, they have to pay for police to be there. If someone's, you know, if the women's club is gonna have an event, you know, there's not gonna be police there. So it depends on the event.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, John, the old building, without any tables or chairs, the occupancy was about 800. Never used it, but it's all how they come up with the formula, no table. But as soon as we put tables and chairs down for people to sit, it came down to like 200, 210.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Yes, sir.
evening, David Scheck, 302 C Street. On this couple of resolutions here pertaining to redevelopment,
Just direct that to Council President Howard.
Right. For those two resolutions that we discussed in workshop.
yeah, can you, the one regarding the building heights, can you tell me how that originated? Like, whose idea was it to write a resolution and put it on the agenda for tonight? Like, where did it originate from?
Greg, can you answer where?
Your redevelopment, attorney drafts these kind of ordinances.
That's Bill Northgrave?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't write these, if they're redevelopment. Sometimes April writes them if they're simple, but I don't know.
You know, this was, Colleen met with our planner.
Bill Northgrave.
Discussed it. No, Bill Northgrave, the attorney, our planner is,
David,
yeah, he's not.
Roberts?
Yeah,
Dave
he's
Roberts.
not here anymore. We have a new gentleman. I don't know his name off the top of my head. Haven't met him yet.
One of those guys. Definitely.
So it must have come from a sit-down meeting with our administrator and Bill Northgrave and the planner. Decided what would be a good fit for that area.
So but this came up specifically because of 707 10th Avenue, or does anyone know that, or?
Specifically, I don't think so. I think they're looking at the area in general, and it was mentioned that once we passed it, we figured we'd get some interest from developers, and apparently any developers that did contact us or we spoke to, they weren't interested in developing a 3.5-story height. Now the 707 was, I think, 4-story because they thought they were in a different zone than what they are in now, because when we rezoned it, they're in the Seaport area.
Right, it's my understanding that Mr. DePepe hasn't presented a final plan yet for 500 Main Street. It's
500 Main Street?
Well, no, for 500 Main Street, he had very specific plans, you know,
Yes. Reason being is, his project on 10th Avenue, that's 2 to 3 years down the road. They say that's why he didn't have specific plans yet. He's gonna probably concentrate on 500, get that done, and then put his attention to 10th Avenue.
Yeah, I thought it was a little odd that we entered into a redevelopment agreement where it wasn't even presented with a final plan yet, but I was just
Well, you can see
wondering.
all this development sometimes takes years to plan. Well, you gotta, think ahead. So if you just try to do it right away, you're behind the 8 ball, so.
But I assume you still have some discretion, like, we don't know exactly what he has planned for that yet, so if he comes in with something that's like really, that you guys don't like, that there's still some discretion to, because we don't know what he's building there yet, just a rough outline of what he has planned, but nothing specific. But do we know if it's gonna be 4 stories, his plan? Like what he presented so far, is it
It's
4
already
stories?
just to add to it, we approved his height limitations and his setback, so he can't go out of that.
And the height limitation was within the old redevelopment rules
Well,
before?
it's not in the redevelopment. That area is zoned for 4 stories.
Yeah, he can't go up any higher than that, because what we approved was his height limitations, his setback limitations, and everything that he could do. The only thing that he could redevelop was in that box that we approved of.
Right, when that property fell under redevelopment, then the old zoning requirements about heights were nullified by the redevelopment. The redevelopment agreement is above, takes precedence over the old zoning laws, right?
Correct.
So, and currently the redevelopment only allows for 3.5 stories. Is that
Not in that
right?
area. It was 4 before that.
It was 4 before that, but
It wasn't in the redevelopment zone. It's not in the Seaport redevelopment zone. That part of 10th Avenue was never covered by that.
707 10th Avenue isn't in the redevelopment zone?
No, not to my understanding, no.
No, it
Now it is.
Because we made an agreement with them.
Yeah.
No.
So what happened was he was in a commercial, which was allowed 4 stories.
Right.
Then we rezoned it, and it kind of threw him into the 3.5-story zone. So
Right.
now what we want to do is send it to the planning board and ask the planning board to discuss whether or not that area in the Seaport redevelopment zone can have higher heights. So,
But his proposal, as far as whatever of it you've seen, is that for 3.5 stories or 4 stories, that building?
I think that was for three
No,
stories.
it's four
Four.
stories.
Four stories.
Four stories.
We presented to the planning board and got approval from the planning board last month.
That's exactly what I was trying to make the point on this resolution, is that each individual property owner could come in and ask for 3 stories, 4 stories, or 5 stories, and we determined that on each individual property. And I was curious of why that we had this resolution going, but it seems that this resolution, they're gonna try to make it all conforming to whatever side. But in the past, everybody was coming in and they were, whatever was there, they were requesting either height or to make their project work. And the height limitations, I think, were already set in the ordinance. Now, the only thing that he has to do is design what was in those parameters. So, we agreed to allow him to go to 4 stories, even though it was only 3.5 in the new redevelopment zone.
Under redevelopment, the planning board doesn't have veto power over it. They're only merely an advisory. But they could be, theoretically, they could be dead set against it, and you guys could still approve it, and it's built.
Correct, yeah.
That's one of the things about redevelopments, it takes away the power of the planning board to.
Right, even if it goes back to the planners, it says, okay, the conformity is gonna be 4 stories. Each individual property owner, and that was the point I was trying to make, can come in and ask for relief on that, or a variance, to go up another story, and if everybody agrees to it, because to make the project work, they can do it.
So if this.
I just want to be just clear real quick. The procedure we were discussing is prior to the actual plan. They still have to go for site plan approval to the planning board.
And the planning
So
board has.
what you said is that it takes away the planning board's power, really takes away the zoning board's power.
Oh, right.
I just wanted to be clear that we're talking
Forgive
about.
me, you're right, it's a zoning board.
But the planning board still gets to review the site plan and aesthetics and things like that.
Understood, yeah, I'm sorry, I meant to, right. If this if this passes, then anybody in the redevelopment zone can build a 4-story building, or whatever. It doesn't say how many stories, I assume it's just for 4, right? But does it say specifically?
Well, the planning board's gonna review it. I mean, they can come back with.
Okay, if they come back and say 4, let's say, right, or 5, then anyone in the redevelopment zone could build, like if they say 5, and everybody in the redevelopment zone, anywhere in the redevelopment zone could build a 5-story building, is that right?
Yes, but there's interim steps. So they come back and recommend what they think is appropriate. Then the council can accept or reject the recommendation and pass the redevelopment plan with an introduction and adoption, let's just say for 5 stories. Then yes, anyone in the redevelopment area can build 5 stories.
So, it may be appropriate for, let's say, 707 10th or whatever, but I think there's places in the redevelopment area you wouldn't want to have a 5-story building, right?
You have to forgive me, I don't live here.
So,
I own-
but could it be stopped? Like, once you increase it to 4 or to 5, if somebody's in an area where it wouldn't really be appropriate to have a 4 or 5-story building, does the municipality have the power to prevent that? Or does any building, any property in the redevelopment area can now go to that height? It seems like there's some areas that it just wouldn't be appropriate, like if it's near the marina and it's gonna be blocking, it's gonna be, you can build a wall up against the marina, like along 35 there, or something. I don't know if you would want 5-story buildings.
Well, that's exactly what the planning
lining
board's gonna study. They're gonna look at it and say, that fits there, it doesn't fit there, and they're gonna give a report. And then there's gonna be a introduction to public hearing. But if you, if the public agrees with it, they'll say they do. If they don't,
Right,
they'll
but
say
is
it's
it,
longer.
once they decide on a height, they're not gonna get down to each individual property and establish a maximum building height for each property in the redevelopment zone, right?
No, that'd be spot zone.
Right, so once they say, yeah, you can build a 4-story building, or, the 4-story buildings are allowed in the redevelopment zone, because there's buildings in the redevelopment zone that weren't part of the business district, right?
So I want think of it like this, right? So we start with a big box, right, of what you can build. and it gets narrower as this process goes along. So you send it to the planning board where it should be narrowed. Then it comes back here for the redevelopment plan, and it gets narrower as to what you can build. Then you enter into a redeveloper's agreement, which specifically says what you're gonna build, and it gets narrower. Then you go to the planning board, and they either like the aesthetics or what have you, and then it gets narrower. And each of those levels, there are public hearings and what have you for public input, because you're basically saying, the master plan we published to everyone and said we're gonna follow isn't being used for this particular reason, and the public should get multiple opportunities to evaluate that. That's, if you give us a box, you're saying if they say 5 stories in the redevelopment plan, then anyone can build 5 stories. That's true, except when you get farther down into the smaller boxes, there's more opportunity for it to be constricted further, if that makes sense. But it doesn't necessarily have to be. What you're saying is correct. It's both correct and incorrect.
But they could stop it, right?
Yes.
If somebody wants to
At
build
any
a
of those
4-story
levels,
building
it
in
can be
an
stopped.
area
Yeah.
where the majority of the council, or the majority of the planning board thinks it's inappropriate, that it could be stopped
It can be
without
stopped
being
at any
sued,
time it
or
goes from box to
you
box.
can't go to the lawyer and say, well, the law says 5 stories, that, you know, and you're not letting me do that, that's not the problem, right? That we can
No,
tell
the
them, no,
procedure goes
that
farther down.
property cannot be 5 stories, right?
Correct. Right, at any of those levels, it can be trimmed down to whatever the public and ultimately the governing body thinks is
Right.
appropriate, but obviously they're below the public ultimately, so.
Hopefully. Okay, thank you. Happy night.
Any other comments, questions on the resolution calendar? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public portion of the resolution calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council President?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing payment of the bills.
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicholas?
Yes.
Councilman Walker?
Yes.
Councilman Gover?
Yes. Next, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution of the mayor, for the mayor and council of the borough of Belmar in the county of Monmouth, New Jersey, directing the planning board to investigate and make recommendations for amending the building heights in the Seaport Village redevelopment area. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
I just want everyone to know, I'm not really necessarily in favor of, definitely not in favor of 5 stories. I'm not convinced we even need to look at 4, but I don't see the harm in letting the planning board investigate, and then I'll take what they have to say in mind when we make a final decision, so I'll vote yes.
Councilman Nicholas?
Yes.
Councilman Walker?
Yes.
Councilman Gover?
I agree with Tom. I would like to make sure that the planning board knows that we don't want skyscrapers. You know, 4 stories is fine, possibly some 5 stories, but we gotta kind of recommend back to us for our approval. But I'll let them investigate it. My answer is yes. Okay, next, I make a motion to approve the resolution of the mayor and borough council of the borough of Belmar in the county of Monmouth, New Jersey, directing the planning board to investigate whether certain properties should be designated as an area in need of redevelopment without condemnation. Non-condemnation redevelopment area. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicholas?
Yes.
Councilman Walker?
Yes.
Councilman Gover?
Yes.
Thank you, Council President. Next is the consent agenda. I'll offer the consent agenda.
I'll second.
I have some questions, if we can just talk about a couple of them.
Sure.
On the resolution permitting the special events, I see there is a walkathon on the boardwalk for June 10th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Doesn't say who it is or how many people, but that could be a very busy day on our boardwalk, June 10th. We're already having gate attendance on the beach, and usually when we have walkathons on the boardwalk is before the season. So do we know who is having this walkathon and how many people they expect?
I can find out for you, but I will tell you, it's my understanding that if someone wants to do these things, we're not, it's a public, you know, it's not shutting down the
Okay.
street. It's just nice that they actually come and apply for it, but if they didn't, you can't deny someone the right to walk down the road.
Now, usually the walkathons require like a sign-up place, and in the past, we've used Taylor Pavilion. Are they just going to assume that Taylor Pavilion or the gazebo is going to be available for the registration site, and which would create havoc crossing the street or trying to use Taylor Pavilion during the season?
Right, I mean, I would tell you, I don't know the answer to that question, but I think you can rest assured that, between the business administrator, the chief of police, and the superintendent of public works, they'll ensure that it's done in an orderly fashion and does not interrupt the folks that are coming to the beach, because that is a very, potentially, weather permitting, a very busy day, so. However it's managed, there's not gonna be any impediment whatsoever to the beachfront.
Okay, great. Another one, the resolution establishing fees for public spaces in the borough of Belmar, Monmouth County. Heisman Gazebo, it says Heisman Gazebo is available for booking with a no-cost permit. People, when they know it's no cost, that's a great place to get married. I wonder if we should have in there no wedding reception at the Heisman Gazebo. Because I know in the past, there have been some small receptions where people hang around and they play some music. If it's for free, that's going to be, get out there and they're all gonna monopolize the gazebo, I think, for possibly something instead of the Taylor Pavilion. And what we used to do in the past, sometimes people would get married at the gazebo, it rained, and they thought automatically they expected they could use Taylor Pavilion. So we should put in something in there that.
We'll make sure that people know that they can use it for a wedding ceremony.
Wedding ceremony.
Not a reception. And again, just because you are able to use the Heisman Gazebo for a wedding ceremony does not mean that you have the ability to use the Taylor Pavilion because it may be used by someone else or something else that the borough is doing that time.
And because you have the ceremony there, it doesn't entitle you to a reception on the pavers that are down that area.
We have to make an application, right?
You have to make an application, but not for nothing, if people wanted to hang out there, it's a public space. I couldn't see.
Never had a problem with that.
We've never had a problem with that, but I know, it's sort of like, you know.
Well, I used to walk my dog around there a lot. I know people used to celebrate some beers, some wine.
Oh, well, that's.
So the police wouldn't know because you'd just be driving by, but if you were walking by there, you know those little ceremonies. There was some, let's say, small reception type affairs.
If that came to our attention, we would do it.
Right.
But that's already prohibited, no matter where you are in town.
Okay.
And when someone reserves the gazebo, they do get a list of do's and don'ts, so things they're allowed to do there.
So,
Yeah,
okay,
they
so
can't
they're
do things
still
up,
in
they
there.
can't- There's, you know, there's things they can't do to the physical aspect of it.
I still got more. Okay. Under organized league for Memorial Field, it says $1,000 per season. My goodness, that's a lot of money for a bunch of guys playing softball on Sundays. What we used to do was used to ask them for in-kind services. They would buy the clay, you know, and some money. They didn't mind adding the clay because it was helping them also, but $1,000 for a bunch of guys, you know, for a league, that's a lot. I just think that's too much, too expensive.
That's actually in the existing ordinance, that's not changing. That whole Schedule A is the pavilion, the gazebo, and the field. So we're just, the only thing that was changing was the pavilion and the gazebo fees. That just got carried over, because that's already in the ordinance.
It's already in this.
All right, if it's been in there, I have heard complaints that for $1,000 per season, guys playing softball, and all we do is provide them a porta john. There's no water fountain over there in Port John. So really, for $1,000, I think we should really provide some more.
I hear you, but we provide them a field that the Department of Public Works has to maintain. So, again, it's not an increase in the fee. We're not adding to it, and we have had leagues there before, so it's not as if it necessarily deters enough people that it's authentic.
Okay. And one more, I'm almost done. For the rules and regulations for the John Taylor Pavilion, I'm reading through the rules, 21, they're all basically the same. I've spoken to Colleen. In my years doing this, I always found that we gave the rules to the person that signed the application, quote, the site director, and a lot of times when these violations were done, we'd ask for the site director, and it would almost invariably be, oh, he's not here. I think we should put in these rules that the site director, the person that signs the application, that knows what these rules are, must be there during the function. Because if not, someone's gonna say, well, we didn't know. And then you have the tacks, the staples in the walls, there's other violations of our rules and regulations. So I really think we should add number 22 and make that the site director, person that signs the application, be on the premises from start to finish.
Can we, how do we go about amending the resolution to include that?
You can make a motion to amend the resolution, the clerk can,
What-
vote to change, and then you guys can vote to amend the resolution and then to approve it.
Okay, Brian, you wanna make that, you wanna offer that amendment?
I offer an amendment to the rules and regulations for the John A. Taylor Pavilion, Borough of Belmar, Monmouth County, to read that the site director, the person that signs the application, must be on premises during the function from start to finish. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
I guess my question is, if they're not there the night of the event or the day of the event?
Good question. We hold their security, their violation of security.
We just put that in the rules.
You have a general penalty provision in the ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay.
They can't use it again, a whole bunch of things.
You could say, or subject to, your event could be subject to shutdown.
Yes.
Mayor Doherty?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montgomery?
Yes. So now we're back to the consent agenda, right?
Yes, anything on your list?
No, really, I'm not.
So now we're back to consent agenda. I will re-offer the consent agenda as the resolution regarding the Taylor Pavilion has been amended.
I'll second it.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Doherty?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montgomery?
Yes.
Next is first reading introduction of ordinance. There's no public hearing on this. Ordinance 2017-10, ordinance of Borough of Belmar, amending the revised general ordinances, chapter 40, development regulations to add sections 40-7.33, artificial turf. So I will offer this for first reading and introduction.
I'll second it.
Councilman Brennan?
No.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Doherty?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
No.
Councilman Montgomery?
Yes.
Next is public session. Public session is very simple. Please raise your hand when you call on the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and you may make whatever public comments you like. Yes, front row. And everyone gets 5 minutes.
My name's Ann Collins, I live at 419 4th Avenue, and this May I will be here 22 years in Belmar. And I just want to say some compliments. Our public works is great, our police department is great, our rescue squad is great. I had recently need of the rescue squad to my home. 2 young policemen came, they were great. That's what I have to say. I'm so happy to be living here in Belmar. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Mayor and Council, Lee Kelsey O'Donnell, 604 Fifth Avenue. Before I begin, may I approach?
Sure.
I don't have enough for all of you, but if you don't mind sharing like you did in kindergarten.
We didn't share in kindergarten.
Oh, well, I was about to say Rose, Belmar Elementary, we stand for that.
I went to Belmar Elementary.
Anyway, Mayor and Council, as you may know, I live in front of the Seaport Inlet Marina, which had the fire on February 14th. Devastating. I've been here before. Many of my neighbors have been here before. I also want to thank, before I begin, the police department. Last night, my family had to call because at 9:45 at night, the owner was using his forklift with the assistance of SUV headlights illuminating, trying to move some boats, and I believe some members of our police department went down there and stopped it. So first, I want to say thank you. I don't know your official title anymore, but thank you. Anyway, what you have in front of you is a list of concerns that a group of neighbors has compiled. It regards the quality of life, safety issues, zoning issues. There are pictures which my father has taken from throughout the property. Some other neighbors have taken throughout their properties. As you can see, it's a problem. I know that, Councilman McGovern, you have mentioned that you've never been there before. I invite you to come into my backyard and look. It's a disgrace. I can reach out my hand and I can touch the boats that are hanging over my backyard. Like I said, last night at 9:45, my family is awoken because a forklift is being used, totally outside of the ordinance regulation times. And we just want to know what's going to be done. And I know that Mayor and Council and Public Works and Police Department and fire officials have all been on top of it with the April 1 deadlines that were set forth to comply with certain fire extinguishers, and other just recommendations that were set forth, and I applaud you and I thank you for that, but obviously it's not enough for right now. It's not enough for the neighbors that are living surrounding there. It's not enough for, I would argue, the boat owners who are putting their boats and, you know, their retirement funds at the hands of this owner. And I'm not saying that he means ill will towards anyone or our homes, but the way that we're being treated with how our homes are being treated, with the way that our quality of life is impacted, it's horrible. I've lived in the same place for almost 20 years and I've never seen anything like this before. And so again, it's a list of recommendations, it's a list of questions, some citations to certain codes that we've found. And I honestly invite you into my backyard whenever you're willing and able to come and look. And there are pictures that were taken literally moments before we came to this council meeting. And if I'm missing anything, I encourage my neighbors to come up and speak, but it just needs to be brought to your attention. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, good afternoon, my name is Greg Mel, and I was looking to bring a family-friendly business to the Belmar Marina. And recently I was working with Colleen Conley. I met with her in February, and met my attorney, my marketing partner. We did due diligence, got our underwriter insurance quote, and met with New Jersey State Police as to the procedures of the business. And I haven't been getting any responses from Colleen. I sent her emails, text messages. It's not like this is an unknown business. I'm trying to start it now. We just put in a lot of work, and I need either a yes or no, because it's going to be a seasonal business, and I just need an answer. I even took a day off last week to come down to possibly meet her, and I met with, I'm not too sure who I spoke with, but they said, all right, we'll give her a note, put her on the door. Didn't get any contact information back, and it's really just discouraging, especially because I'm an entrepreneur, and I'd like to, I don't know, start small in Belmar.
What's the business you're doing?
Pedal boat business on the marina, because I was originally trying to work through Lake Como and Spring Lake to put it on the Como area, right by the boardwalk area. But after emailing Colleen initially, she said, oh, well, we were looking to offer this amenity in the marina. Would you be interested? I said, yes. So I altered my plans to best suit the needs of the township. And I also thought it would be very beneficial, given that they have the new restaurant there, the mini golf. It's really a family-friendly environment. So having a pedal boat environment, it's something that's going to just... Exactly. Pedal boat's in a nice bay. It's something that's going to operate for, let's say, 90 days throughout the season. I'm going to employ probably 2 kids to work there. It's pretty safe. a good business. I'm just looking for a yes or a no, just so I can get the wheels moving.
Okay, we'll let her know you came to tonight's meeting and ask her to get back to you.
Yeah, I've left her several voicemails, I've called through the township lines, emails and whatnot, and
I
I'm
got it, I got it. I imagine that you did.
Right.
Yeah, well, she said they would have to go through the bid process, and I was more than willing, I understand what the minimum is, and
Well, I'd also say that's also, I mean, it's a decision for the council to make.
Yes.
The business administrator serves, and reports back to the council, so this is, I think, the first the council's ever heard of this, so, I would tell you, you're not gonna get a yes or no tonight.
oh, well, I understand that.
I don't know when you're gonna get a yes or no, and you may not get a yes, because the,
I'm okay
the
without
council,
a yes,
you
I
know,
just need an answer. That's really, it. I understand I'm not gonna get an answer tonight, I just want one possibly within the next 2 weeks, because it takes time to get my, like, inventory if it were to happen.
I don't know if we're gonna have an answer in the next 2 weeks.
You said Lake Como area by the boardwalk? What do you
Yeah,
mean
so
by
I'd
that?
have to be going through the 3 different townships, Spring Lake, Lake Como, and Belmar.
I
But
think
that was the
I think it's
original
Lake
plan, and, so she informed me that they were looking to offering that amenity at the Belmar Marina right in front of the new restaurant that's being built. And so I obliged and altered my plan to best suit that need, and now I'm not getting any response at all.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more comments? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is James Kaufman. I live at 131 Terrace Road. I'm just going to piggyback a little bit about what Lee had said. And we know that there's going to be a fire marshal inspection there on Thursday. So we'd like to know what the results of that is. You know, we've heard a lot of what was been going on, and we're just not getting too much communication back from them. As well as, you know, how are we going to ensure that a lot of what is going on, inspection and upkeep and safety codes are going to be adhered to?
Well, that's the responsibility of the fire marshal,
Right.
to hold the business owner, any business owner accountable. The last time I spoke to him, I think was maybe the middle of last week, and he you know, one of his updates to me was that there are now fire extinguishers on the
Okay, and
premises
we've heard that.
where there haven't been before, and I asked him whether the proper ones for marine, because you have to have a different one for a marina than say for your home, and he assured me that they were, and that they were testing it, they're all good to go. So, I mean, we rely on the fire marshal to ensure that people are complying with whatever the regulations are.
Okay, and we look forward to hearing what they have to say on Thursday as well.
But the inspection's Thursday. I don't know when we'll get your report, but we'll try to get your report as soon as possible afterwards.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Next council meeting?
Hopefully before that.
Okay.
But we can just distribute it to everyone in your community, you know, where you get it.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nancy Koenig. I live at 303 C Street, and my comments are about my water. Goes back to August 2015, when I had very little pressure coming to my house. DPW was there, Mike did real good, changed the meter, made sure nothing was, long story short, I've had a signed contract with Walcheck, the person who does a lot of water work here. I've had a signed contract since last May to do this work that is gonna cost me big bucks. They even came and marked it out in July. He still hasn't been there. I don't know the relationship.
Have you called them?
Many times, just as many times as I've called DPW and Mike and Joe Rundler.
And what does Mr. Wojak say when you call him?
We'll see if we can put you on the agenda. We'll get back to you. Let me check into that for you. And I didn't bring my list today, but I have a whole list of all the times I've called and written and emailed and responses. I just want to have water in my house. Do you know the relationship between Walsjet and Belmar?
There is none.
They're a company.
There is none, no. He's a private company, we're the water department.
Okay.
You have a contract for a private company. I spoke to you last meeting, I did call him the next day, and I asked him to get a hold of you.
Mhm.
But I have no power to make him do that, he's a private company.
Okay,
He's not the only person that can do that work either, so I would suggest you contact us, and I'll send Joe with some other contractors that are available. If he doesn't want the work, perhaps you should get somebody else.
okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jason Rusak, owner of Forever Lunch Shore. If I can, I brought some letters. It's not actually letters, it's a booklet. So, essentially, what did that just mean, if you don't mind me asking? Like, when you guys mentioned the ordinance, and some said yes, some said no?
Well, it was first reading and introduction of the ordinance, so for
Right.
the ordinance to become law, it has to have a first reading introduction, then the next meeting has a second reading and a public hearing, and then final passage, and then 20 days after that, it takes effect.
Okay, because I've obviously got the opportunity to read it, and I just wanted to, I guess, share my point of view with everybody, and hopefully it's a little educational, and it'll help everybody make a better decision. I'm not gonna go through it all here. I mean, the letter's 3 pages, the rest are case studies and photos. The photos don't look great, 3D printing does a great job, but it wasn't very paper. But just to summarize, I just want to say that synthetic turf, it is a growing trend. It provides lifestyle enhancements for consumers, businesses, beautifies landscapes throughout New Jersey, throughout the world. The proven technology has grown and improved drastically over the last 10 to 15 years, being more real, more durable, much more functional in many different applications. Banning the surface this shows so many benefits and has very few negatives. It's just doing disservice to Belmar, I honestly believe. And, you know, should surrounding communities follow along. Like I said last meeting, it does set a precedent because there are no model ordinances in New Jersey. I've gone up against the historical district of Ocean Grove. They decided to go along with synthetic turf. I would just hate to see an ordinance in place that essentially limits synthetic turf from everywhere but a backyard or a sports field, when there really are, you know, good beneficial uses to it, not only for the environment, but safe for kids. You know, there's just so many positives, very few negatives. I think a lot of that was overlooked. So I just ask you guys to take the time to read through the booklet. Call me if you have any questions. Call these STC if you have any specific questions. But I appreciate the time and the effort, and I agree. I think there needs to be, you know, regulation in place, but hopefully it's in the right, you know, the right direction. And that's all I'm saying. So thank you all.
Ed Monty, 117 19th Avenue. I know you read the ordinance tonight for the first time. Since the ordinance was read and prior to it being posted, has any significant changes been made?
To the ordinance itself?
Any clause?
The ordinance since the
No.
last time? They're the only change, again, from the last time we were here, Councilman McGovern, wanted to make it clear, and I think he was correct, the language was a little unclear, that the 1 foot buffer area in the ordinance should include live plantings. It said organic, but it wasn't quite clear that we were describing live plantings. That was the only change, and anything that was posted, what he may have been.
Well, basically, I'm more concerned about the grandfather clause.
You're fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's enough.
David Shank, 302 C Street. About this artificial turf wall. I do want to mention that I am completely opposed to it, but please don't let that stop any of you from voting against it. I did notice one possible ambiguity in the law, and it's regarding if you want to replace pre-existing artificial turf. It says that you need a permit. But if you have like artificial turf in your front yard and it's like older and you want to replace it because it's, you know, starting to be weathered, is that grandfathered, or? Like, it says here that you need a permit prior to the replacement of existing artificial turf on any property. But is that existing for, you know, side yards and backyards, or is that existing? It's not really clear whether you can replace what's now, you know, not permitted if you already have it, you know? Like if you already have it in your front yard and you want to replace it. It's not really clear on whether you can do that.
It's, if you have it in your front yard now, and you take it up, then you need a permit to replace it.
Right, but a permit wouldn't be withheld because it's now not permitted, right?
Well, you'd have to do it for a zoning board.
So, but if you already have like the bed for it, you know, and everything's all done, like you have to have some kind of bed underneath it, right? You can't just put it on the dirt, right?
You specifically compacted and porous road-based material that's a minimum of 2 inches deep.
Right, so if you already have that on your yard, and then you have the artificial turf on top of it, and it's 10 or 12 years old or whatever, and it's getting weathered, and you want to make it look nice again, you want to replace it, you could be turned down then you would have to rip up all that's underneath it.
Yes.
So the grandfather clause is only for as long as that grass lasts.
Correct, but the zoning board takes into account.
But you're at their mercy, right?
Yeah, that's what.
So
hardship is part of the factors that the zoning board takes into account. So what this ordinance really does is ultimately the zoning board can pass variance and allow anyone to do it in the town. It puts a monitor of control on it that was absent previously.
No, I don't think the people that are
I would
grand.
also tell you, if you actually did your homework on this, the folks who put in good lawns, it's gonna be there for decades. The people who put in, you know, the cheapy lawns, yeah, that'll wear off sooner, but, you know, like.
Okay, well, what if they have a cheapy one, want to replace it with a better one?
Before with Forever Lawn, I mean, that was gonna last far beyond our lifetime.
Okay, so now if somebody has one that's maybe doesn't have the weathering capabilities and it starts to look bad, now they can't replace it to make it look nice because they're stuck with what they have, because if they go to replace it with better artificial turf, they might be told that they can't do it, right?
Correct.
Theoretically, I mean, they come before the zoning board, you say, I'm trying to make it better. Aesthetics is also a factor that the zoning board would take. I already have the base, I'm trying to make it better. I mean, you know, it's their neighbors that are sitting on the zoning board. It's not the king and queen of Belmar.
Well, I think the people that already have it, that think that their grandfather would be well advised to, you know, consider that possibility, that the grandfather clause is only as long as their grass lasts, and that once it's time to replace it, even though they've already put the bed down for it and done all this work, that would have to be all ripped out if they have to convert back to grass, that, you know, I have a feeling they don't understand that, so.
Thank you for your passion for this topic. Any other comments, questions for us on the legislation? Yes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Claire Dyke, 1017 14th Avenue. I just wanted to compliment Councilwoman Nicolay for mentioning our In the Pink event. It's part of the countywide Paint the Town Pink, which Belmar has been involved in for a few years. I also want to thank you for allowing us to use this facility, because we're doing several things and we needed the different rooms. And your staff is wonderful. We have Kelly and we have Colleen and several of the staff helping us. So it should be, I encourage everyone, women here, to attend. We have Dr. Johnson, Denise Johnson Miller. We also have Dr. Vera Gupta, a chiropractor, who's going to be speaking. But our goal is to heighten awareness for the necessity of mammograms. They save lives. The mammogram saved my life 15 years ago. I endured chemotherapy and radiation, but I'm here to tell my story. And if we save one life with these events, then we have done our job. So I encourage all the women in the room to come. It's May 3rd here. Here's the 6th Avenue entrance. You can get your nails done, get some cute little hair paint things. And we're also having shoulder massage from Addie's Massage, and then our speakers, and then refreshments. So please, please tell your loved ones to come. I'm passionate about this because it involved me. And education is the key to everything. So Dr. Johnson Miller is excellent. So I hope everybody comes. Thank you. Thank you for the use of the facility.
Just two quick things to say. Thank you very much, Claire. We bring it up every May because that's what nationally we do, but it is important. I have a friend that 12 years ago, she had breast cancer, was cleared of it, and went for her mammogram every year. And some people say, oh, you know what, last year was okay, whatever. She just went again after 12 years, and it did come back. So if she had skipped this year, who knows what would have happened. So it's under control, and she's taking care of it. Well, please, the annual, it's important. That's how I discovered mine, how Claire discovered hers. The second thing is, for the whole month of May, is Paint the Town Pink. But also, if you know any business owners in town, the hospital, Meridian Health, if you go online, you can register to get a free kit to paint your business pink, and they'll send you markers and ribbons and piggy banks and all sorts of things to decorate your business. So again, if you know any business owners, or if tomorrow you go to your hairdresser in town, please remind them that by April 12th, they need to apply for their free pink kit. So thank you.
And DPW does a nice pink line for us down the street. Thank you, Michael.
For you, Claire.
Thank you.
Just don't ask them to stuff Easter eggs. Oh, Mom. Yes, ma'am. Still have those left over?
Pat Long, 18th Avenue. Just a quick question about May. Do we have any townwide yard sales in May? Because we can take the pink.
We may end up moving that to the first.
Great idea.
First weekend in June.
June 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, we're gonna do the first weekend in June. We have a lot of conflicts in town. So June 3rd and 4th is gonna be the townwide.
Well, that's good for me. That's good. Thank you.
Thanks for pumping the lake with all this rain that we had. My folks are still going. Any progress? Any start? Did we lose the grant money? Because I know we had a time constraint on that.
Fortunately, we have not lost the grant money. We are still working with Department of Environmental Protection because there is a few issues regarding dam safety. Because while we have all our approvals through the Army Corps of Engineers and every other department within the Department of Environmental Protection, unfortunately, dam safety is layering additional work that's outside the scope of the grant, that's not covered by the grant. So we are looking to get the grant amended to meet the requirements of dam safety. Not to get too particular, but what they want is they want concrete cradles for the pipe, which no one thinks we need except the dam safety, because they think that Ocean Avenue is a dam. But they won't, we cannot go out to bid until we have the permit from them, and they will not grant us a permit until we agree to do this. It's an additional cost to about $100,000 plus to the project, which is not covered by the grant, so now we need to go and have another part of DEP amend the grant to cover that, so we can say we will do it, so that the permit go out to bid. So hopefully go out to bid sometime in April.
$60,000 to rent a pump, instead of putting it toward the,
It doesn't cost $60,000 to rent a pump.
Well, you could tell them that.
No, believe me, we took pictures of the pumps and sent it to them and said, this is what we have to do for our residents, and this is costing taxpayer money until we get this permit. Good thing is, once the work starts, it should go pretty quickly, but getting it to start, I mean, this May is 2 years. So believe me, it's extremely
Okay,
frustrating.
thanks, man.
Seeing no other public comments, make a motion to close the public portion and adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.